Bob tonight. First order of business, Sonia Caban and Francis Donnelly, Four Lines Road, application for stabilization of pond. Are you here to represent them? Okay. If you'll step up, sign in, and tell us a little bit about what you're going to do.
So you want me to tell you about the project? Is that what
Yes,
you- Okay.
please do.
And we bought the house together.
Can you state your name?
Oh, yeah, my name is Francis Donnelly. I live at Four Lines Road in Woodbridge. We bought the house in July of 2018, and the house sits on a pond is right in our backyard. And one section is some bit of erosion, especially around a tree that we're trying to save. So we want to put some field stone on the banks on one side and on the other to decrease erosion and maybe correct some of what has happened in the pond.
Okay. So the bank has done what? There was a bank, or there is?
Well, there's still a bank, but you can see that that over time it's like collapsing, and some of it has fallen into the pond.
Into the pond?
Into the pond. So we feel if there's one section that has some stone against it, and that's a pretty secure part, but there's two other sections that are not secure, and we're trying to protect the pond and keep it intact.
Do you see doing this by hand, or are you going to have machinery do it? or-
We'll hire somebody, and they'll probably have to bring it with wheelbarrows and stuff, because it is sort of soft, because it's kind of muddy. So they would have to drop off pallets of stone and then do it by hand. Yeah.
Other than the pond, are there any wetlands around it?
Yes, back on the other side of the pond, there are wetlands. Yeah.
You have two areas indicated in yellow in here, so you'll be going around to the back side of the pond also to
Yes,
secure.
yes. Those are the two areas where there's the most erosion that looks like problematic. And that's where there's springs and where a lot of the water comes into the pond. So it's kind of spring fed, and then when it rains, it gets water, and then it travels out. And there's another pond next door, and then it goes through that pond into a stream on the other side of, I think it's Rimmon Road. So it's all sort of connected there. And we're particularly concerned because we have a tree near the house, and the roots have been washed open, the soils off of them. So we're hoping to be able to save the tree because we like the tree, and we don't know if having the roots exposed that way will accelerate the trees dying.
Chris, as this is a wetlands or a water source,
Right.
we're going to have to not decide tonight. We can't.
Right.
So we probably should do a site visit on this, I think. What do you all?
Would you like? I brought two pictures. They're not great. Would you like to see pictures? Is that
Sure.
helpful? Yeah. And then photos, I should say.
You know the approximate depth of the pond? Do you have any guess how deep it is?
I have waders, and I go in it, so at the deepest, I don't even think it's 3 feet. Because it's been, like many ponds, filling with muck.
Are you going to do any dredging while you're doing this, or haven't decided
Not
yet?
particularly, other than if you can just pull some of the muck back towards the shore, and put it behind the stones, but not in particular, right now. It may be in the future. So one is a picture of the tree we're trying to save and the exposed roots,
Well,
and this is the other side of the pond. And we put some stones to kind of shore up that.
Okay. So you can envision people basically with with like high boots and doing it mostly manually.
Yes,
Mhm.
carrying it on wheelbarrow.
Mhm.
And, we've gone in the pond, and, some of the stones have rolled away from the bank, so I pulled them back up. But it's
Yeah.
60 bucks. It's kind of hard work.
Is there stone around the rest of it, the area?
There's
or
some, like I said, there
is-
were a lot of them, and then they sort of moved, as they tend to.
Yeah,
Yeah, sure.
And as I went in the pond to, take the leaves out and sticks, I found them and put them back
Yeah.
on the shore. But they get sucked in the mud, they're really hard to pick up.
well, as this is a water source, we can't act on it tonight, so it would have to be a next time, and I think we should schedule the site visit.
Yeah, I think that'd be helpful. Yeah.
And,
How big are the stones that you're suggesting?
Well, they're gonna be carried, they might be delivered on a pallet, as you
Yeah.
usually do. And I don't know, but they're probably 50, 60 pounds.
Yeah, enough to stay in place.
Stay in place.
Stay in place,
Yeah.
but not, prevent any water movement or anything.
Does the water level change throughout the year? Is it more? or
Yeah,
less-
it's interesting. The first year we were there, one day it was like 4 or 5 inches in a couple of hours, and we watched the pond go up nervously, and then it never topped over, and it goes out the other end into the next pond, and then out.
Yeah, yeah.
So we've been lucky, but we have had to have a basement system put in a crawl space, because the water level has been so high, and it actually, apparently it's just commonly happening all over Connecticut, where Connecticut basements are just so busy. So we had to have a pump put in, and they closed it up.
Yeah.
So the water levels have been particularly high, and especially last spring, if you remember, it was pretty rainy. So
Yep.
so we'll probably schedule the site visit the Saturday before the next meeting, which I don't know what that date is, but
Let's see.
It's March 19th, I
Yeah, March 19th would be our, the 18th would be our next meeting, I think.
So the
So
14th.
it'd be the 14th.
14th. Anything else? We don't need a motion on this, I don't believe, or anything. All right, so we'll
Yeah,
schedule
okay.
the site visit, and
You'll normally meet, just go there at 8. I mean,
Yeah.
You don't need to meet here. you
no,
just
we can go there, that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
the 14th is Saturday.
Yeah.
Okay.
Jennifer, that's March already.
Yeah, really.
A week before spring.
Yeah, that's right.
Mhm.
And my mother's birthday. May she
Well.
rest in peace. So hopefully it would be a good outcome.
Okay, great,
All
thank
right.
you.
Well,
We'll
thank
see
you very
you on the
much.
Very good.
14th.
Yeah, thanks.
Alrighty.
Okay. I guess the next item is
And that's,
this note that we got about the school. They're changing the
They're
field.
doing a bunch of improvements at the high school, but the only one that really involves potentially anything with wetlands is the replacement of the stadium field with an all-weather
Right.
field.
That
And
we
the
all
question was posed today through the selectman's office as to whether or not you wanted any action taken on that, and I said, well, you're meeting tonight, so I would ask you guys if you wanted to.
But now the wetlands, it seems like the wetlands are gone right now from this.
Right,
We
the
already-
school
they're already
itself
filled
was
in.
built in the
Yeah.
60s, so it antedated the Wetland Act,
Yeah.
so they did do filled wetlands when the school was originally built. I suspect that some of the stadium field is filled wetland in there, but it's there now.
I mean,
Yeah.
they're just gonna pull up the
They're just
old
gonna
thing
pull
and
up the
put
old
down
and
a
put
new
down
one. I mean,
new, but I said, rather than me just say yes or no,
Yeah.
since you were meeting, I was more comfortable asking.
Because
this
do we,
is something that you can delegate to the wetlands, right? Couldn't we do that like we used to do with Terry?
It's not an application.
Yeah,
there's
what
no
is this? Yeah.
application, right?
It's just a, do you need an application? And I don't,
Yeah,
I didn't think it rose to that.
well, where's the closest existing wetlands then? Would that
It's
be our-
to the, south, you know, the length of the stadium is this way.
Yeah.
And so John Caldwell's house, which is on the corner of Rice and North Pease, that has a series of ponds, and then there are wetlands behind that.
Yeah. That forest, I mean, there's a stream back there too.
But I mean, they're not gonna, you've got the bleachers that are there
Yeah.
and everything else that sits between the actual field and where the wetlands would
I
be.
mean, they're not gonna bring in machinery to traipse through the wetlands.
No.
Get there, I doubt it. Yeah, when they got the access road to the school over there, yeah.
And I don't see any,
Let's have the field.
Hmm?
Let's do it. Let's have the field.
yeah, I don't see.
Okay.
I don't.
You know, as I
see
say,
what
it
we
was
do
a,
here.
you know, I
Yeah.
just figured since you were meeting, it was easier just to
So,
have you weigh in on it.
I guess the answer is no, they don't need a
Okay.
permit. Everybody okay with that?
Yeah. So refill then.
Okay.
Okay.
I did send you out, the notice that there is that cause annual meeting in March on the 13th. I'm going, Bob's going. If anybody else wants to go, let me know and I'll sign you up.
We still have some time to decide.
We still have
on-
some time to sign up. They relocated it the last time they'd had it up in Cromwell. This time it's back and a little bit closer to us in Southbury.
Yeah.
So.
It's on a Thursday, as I recall.
It's a Friday this
Oh,
year.
Friday.
Usually it was on a Thursday, but this year it's a Friday.
I guess we're down to enforcement officer, any activity,
We did
anything?
send a letter out, I sent a letter out regarding 220 Seymour Road. Mr. Asparo called back, and so he's gonna have David Lord get in touch with me. I'm gonna go out to the site with David to see what plantings are there, and then we'll go from there. He had a death in his family, so we're not gonna be able to do that until next week. But that's we're in the process of working on that, so by next meeting, hopefully I'll have more of an update for you. We are still holding a cash bond for that, so, and I did note that in the letter that I sent. Because I think it's a $20,000 bond, so it's a little bit of a carrot.
How much was it, 15, you said?
20.
Okay, next item of business are approval of the minutes. Should we take a few minutes to review them? Or at least I would like to take a few minutes to finish reviewing them.
Yeah. I'll give you my one comment. And this is my only comment on the January 15th minutes on the firehouse, new business. Fourth bullet down, second sentence. It just seems like it should say the proposal is to add.
the owl in there should be part of proposal.
Yeah.
And in 2 bullets up, it should be, there are currently fire department items. That's all I have. Anything else?
That's what I had on all the minutes there.
Can we do this all in one motion, or do we have to do each one separately?
Whatever you're comfortable with.
We need a motion to approve the 4 sets of minutes then.
3.
3, right?
Oh, 3 sets of minutes, correct.
So moved.
Okay, so moved
I'll
and
second-
seconded by,
Second motion.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Approved. Anything else? We have the copies of the documents that we got from Josh to review. There will be a test on the next meeting.
I passed geology in college about 50 more years ago, but that's about the
What are we supposed to look for here?
limit of my
well, we can-
expertise on
if
this.
you-
So,
The section that I really wanted to highlight, well, the data sheets on the back. We could go through this next meeting also, but I'd prefer everybody to be here. But, you know, for example, the mapping that we just got for the high school.
Yeah.
It's mapped inland wetlands, it's obviously not. So I think my major point is that the resolution on the mapping is crude. It's down to a 3-acre resolution. And that, when we're dealing with sites that are 3 acres in size and disturbances that are much less, using mapping as their basis for whether or not there's wetlands on a site is preliminary at best. So my emphasis is to the field investigation, which appears to be happening, but the presentation of the data to go along with the line. It isn't just a line on a map, it's actually data to support your line. I encourage that to be submitted as a record. Because I feel it's important for the soil scientist and the person conducting the wetland delineation to fully have their fingerprints on the project and not be able to, be removed from that. So,
But the question is this data sheet that was shown as an example,
right.
is that used in the field today?
That is, I use the modified version of that data sheet. That's the Corps, the Army Corps of Engineers field data sheet that they request to be submitted with their applications.
Well,
Now, I think a modified version of that could easily be done. Do you need it to be as detailed as that? I did, because I was in the business of collecting data. I didn't know who was gonna see it. I didn't know what regulatory agency was gonna take over my project eventually. If you're dealing with dams or you're dealing in tidal areas, you're gonna deal with different regulatory bodies than the town inland would. So that's really what I wanted to point out, is that there is on-site investigation is totally necessary to have some sort of wetland delineation. Now, if you want to talk about the soil types, we could talk about the soil types because that's the first sheet. There is a list of soil types that the state of Connecticut says fall under the criteria of what we define a wetland to be. But if you look at how these maps are created, and it's in their metadata, completely in their metadata, but their predictions, if you look at the related information, for example, on the inland wetland soil sheet, I don't know if that was included, because that might have been one of the forms that wasn't included, but the soil survey interpretations are predictions of soil characteristics for specified land management practices. What they do is they look at topo maps, they look at the parent material, there's all these assumptions that are made, and then they spit out a map according to elevation, according to plant type, according to parent material, according to how long the soil has been able to form. In Connecticut, we had a severe glaciation, and there's a lot of till, and our soils are very heterogeneous. So, field investigation is necessary. If you're out there to collect data, show me a log. We have Jim Preddy review all sorts of calculations that a PA can do for 30 years. We have an independent third party look at it. The Quinnipiac Health Department sends a representative out to watch the test pits logged because they want to make sure that a septic is actually going to work on site. And they found it a little bit more a better idea to actually put a representative in the site to watch it happen because they want it verified. In my opinion, wetlands should be verified where the line is, especially on a site plan or subdivision. I'm not saying every mom and pop that's coming in for a riprap on a pond should have to do this. But when you're talking about a house on a very tight site on a sloped forested wetland, and there's maybe feet away from what a wetland line is, and the project is a go or it's not, those are the ones that I think the scientists should. And I was talking to Christine about it. You go to BJ's and you self-checkout now. And you pay. The last question they said, did you check all the items underneath your cart? Of course I checked them. I'm paying, right? But just you pushing yes or no at that time, when you go to the door, you can't claim ignorance anymore. That excuse is gone. So when they put their logs down there, a verifiable log, we can find it in the field. The soils aren't going to change within weeks. In fact, they're not going to change within decades. That scientist knows that they can find that log, and when he submits it, he's going to give an accurate representation. Why? I'll just put it like this. Why would a soil scientist present the line accurately if he has no chance of it ever being checked or verified? Who's paying his fees? I'm just saying, I saw every trick in the book, and I'm not saying that any of that's going down, but really I'm trying to stick with a process. You're an attorney, Dave, right? Process is important, right?
I guess the question that I would ask is, each of these companies probably have their own set of standards and processes, right? Now, yes, they should be measured up to the same thing, but I can't imagine them all doing it in exactly the same way.
Are there standardized?
I remember a couple of meetings ago, Chris had said she did a Google search for what the contents of a wetland delineation report were. And I'll tell you, it's a scientific report. So it's an introduction, you have your materials and methods, you discuss your results, and then you come up with some sort of conclusions. My wetland delineation report would mirror whatever my wetland regs are telling me I need to include. And when I'm being told that if we want to change the regs or revise the regs to ask for the data, when I see it specifically written in 7.5D, and I'm saying, where's the revision exactly? What is necessary? So I guess I'm unclear. Soil maps are soil maps, right?
I'm not part of this discussion. We've gone over this so many times. You and I do not agree, and
Well, I'm not sure
you
where we
need- you
disagree,
need-
actually.
You need to talk to your commission members, because it's up to your agency to determine what they would like to do. I am not, it is not
Well,
my
I'm
decision.
asking, as the acting wetlands enforcement officer now, how do you interpret 7.5D?
It is
Because
not
you
my
told me-
job to interpret that. It is up to this commission to determine whether, when something comes before them, they have adequate information on which to make a decision. And if they don't feel that it's adequate, or if they feel that it's inaccurate, in the past, what they have done is they have engaged, through the fee system that we have, an independent soil scientist to go out there to either confirm or dispute a soils report that's been submitted. And so that's what they've done. And that's up to you, what the comfort level of the agency members are. It is not up to me as staff to say what is comfortable for you.
Just to move this along, why don't we all take a look at 7.5D and have that discussion next meeting? I think that would be a fair thing to do.
That's right.
And if because I think the point is that if we don't have something in the regulation to fall back to saying, this is what we want, then we have no,
I mean,
We don't really
historically,
have a
what you've
recourse.
gotten is always what is that narrative that you get, along with a soils map,
Right.
which has been flagged, which has then been taken, that generic map which they submit with the thing, that the project engineer then locates in the field and then puts on the map. I've contacted Darcy Winther up in DEEP to see if they have anything, but Darcy's the only one in DEEP anymore that deals with wetlands. I haven't heard back from her, so I'm gonna try again. She may be on vacation, I'm not sure. Just to ask her, can you provide some guidance this way? But I haven't heard back from her.
and I think it's also, as you said, an order of magnitude. I mean, rarely, although we did have the two difficult lots.
I think that's kind of when I see those two lots, I see two completely different things, and that's why if they're both done by the same soil scientist, it isn't. You put a bunch of us out there, we're going to get pretty much the same result if we follow the methodology that I'm saying is done. So when I didn't see, and I didn't really on the Meadowcrest, if you look at the wetland maps, that whole site is mapped as wetlands, the entire site. Now, when I went out there, I said, where? I said, if you want to use the intermittent watersway definition, it's all over the place. And if you want to talk about vernal pools, there was vernal pools all over that site. So it's not, we approved that site, but the 106 Seymour is grossly underestimated. And I think the Meadowcrest was maybe overestimated. And from the same soil scientist, I'm saying, how is that possible? How it should be more homogeneous, And that's it. Like I said, I don't want to beat the horse to death, but the maps are very crude. We would look at them, we'd say, what is maybe on this site, and then we'd go out there and say, this is nothing like it. There's it says right here, 3-acre inclusions. It's wet. You could have a whole upland site with a 3-acre wetland on there, and it's not in the maps. They're basically, and if they're based off of data which is outdated at best, and they're predictions. They've never been field tested.
But for the umpteenth time, that's not what you get submitted to you. What you have from the thing that was submitted regarding the high school, that was something that has the GIS mapping from the town, where you can click on wetland layer, and it's that 3-acre wetland layer delineation that you see. What you got on Meadowcrest, hypothetically what you got on 106 Seymour, was an actual soil scientist going out in the field and identifying where they thought there were wetlands. So what you're getting on a map that comes before you is not the 3-acre delineation stuff. It's site-specific. And if you don't agree, with it,
I agree with that with no data though, Chris, that's what I'm saying. If he has data to support it,
I'm
then
not
I
gonna
agree
argue
with
with
everything you said, but until there's data to support that line, it's just a line on a map. It's just a line on a
then
map.
that's what, you have to determine what you want for information.
Well, I wanted to make my point about that, and to say that is any representation of reality, it's not. So, when I see these are the 3 soil types that are on the site, and there's no soil log that says anything resembling the soil type description. If it's there, it's there. And if we're gonna send another third party out there to verify it or to redelineate it, if I was gonna go on a site to verify somebody else's line, I would wanna see where their data was collected, what they did, instead of just redoing the entire thing. We could have them redo the entire thing, it would cost more money.
It's not our money, it's the applicant's money.
Like I said, and if we had a consistent guy that was time and time again, I know it's difficult, that we could rely on, like Jim, that would be ideal than to have somebody else every single time. But it's gonna come up few and far between. And like I said, site plans and subdivisions that are completely forested next to, and I wanna say before, because I'm pretty much a landowner sovereignty guy. If you're gonna do something on your land and it's not gonna affect your neighbors or any adjacent areas, God willing, go do it. But when your project affects your neighbor or a shared resource like our aquifer that we all depend on for wells, then I have, I think it deserves a little bit more scrutiny. But that's all I have for tonight.
Okay, so, anything else?
I'm
So-
just noting to you that I gave you a copy with both sides on it tonight.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, so, if that's all, a motion to adjourn?
I make
There.
a motion to adjourn.
Second?
I'll second.
Second, all in favor? We're adjourned at 8:01.